Hello everybody and welcome to Streets Noir. I am here, I am Michael, and now I will continue talking. So if you haven't been here before, we're basically just going to be talking about movies. And I'm saying this like I've done many of these videos. So basically, we're just going to be talking about one movie this time instead of two. And I will get into the spoilers today, so be prepared for that. I'll put like a little timestamp in between to be like, this section is the spoilers, just in case, for people who want to watch this movie. Spoilers ahead of time. You probably won't want to. So before we get into this madness, make sure to crush that like button, strangle the subscribe button, and hug the bell. The bell's cool, so we don't hurt the bell. Without further ado, let's just get right into it. Today we'll be talking about How It Ends. How It Ends is a movie. Hold on. Not that one. Not that one. That one. Yeah, that one. Unfortunately. How It Ends is a movie about a man trying to get back to his pregnant girlfriend after he goes to see his father-in-law on basically the other side of America. However, it's becoming increasingly more difficult to do because the apocalypse happens. Just kind of happens, you know, it's like, apocalypse! Ah! How does it happen? What kind of apocalypse are we talking about? Stay tuned to the end to find out. Director of this movie was David M. Rosenthal, who directed movies like A Single Shot, Jacob's Ladder, the remake, and See This Movie. I have never heard of these movies either, so don't downplay yourself. Some of the more recognizable actors in this movie are Theo James, who played in all of the Divergent movies, and Forrest Whitaker, who played in movies like Arrival, Rogue One, and Good Morning Vietnam. So how in the world did these A-list actors, maybe not like A-list, but like at least A-minus list of actors, get into this very B-minus movie? These actors who played in culturally shifting movies, though might not have been the greatest movies ever. Looking at you, Divergent. They were still culturally shifting. I think maybe the actor had a thick wallet, but not the brain to know where he put it. Michael, why are you being so mean about this? You're usually a nice guy. Don't freaking downplay actors. You were just saying in the last video how it's like weird to like rate movies because of like the work that got put into it. Well, this movie deserves to be spat on. Maybe not even in the fun way. No. You could spit on it like fun, like if you're looking for a good movie that's like genuinely good, maybe stick away from this one. But we're going to talk about it anyways. Also doing some more research on the director of this movie. All of his movies are bad. The ones that I even listed are just bad. I watched a little bit of A Single Shot. Most boring movie I've ever seen. It's probably... No, this one was better than A Single Shot because actually something like happens. Nothing happened in A Single Shot. But you know what? We're gonna make this a fun video because I decided to watch it and it was a movie that you guys probably haven't watched. So let's freaking get into it. I know I should be saving my opinions to the end of the movie, so it's not like, you know, my opinion at the beginning and you leave and you're like, oh, well, I'm not watching that. But holy mother of guacamole, it was a hard watch. It would be so much more fun if you were intoxicated. So let's talk about the movie before we go diving into that sweet, sweet pool of juicy, meaty spoils. Yeah! So the movie follows a guy called Will Younger, who's played by Theo James somehow, who was like, I gotta leave you to see my dad because I'm in business and I work and yada yada. He leaves his pregnant girlfriend to go see his daddy-o-in-law, almost his daddy-in-law, who's played by Forrest Whitaker, somehow. While visiting the other parents on the other side of the states, apocalypse happens. Oh, everything apocalypse. Apocalypse now! Apocalypse happens and son and dad have to make treacherous road trip to make it back to the daughter. Will they make it? What wacky activities could happen? Do they form a bond that nobody saw coming except everyone totally did? We're gonna find out. While taking this trip, the son and dad run into a whole bunch of wackadoodleness, and yeah, that's just kind of the entirety of the movie. They just drive. That's about the entirety of the movie. Before going into spoils, here's the timestamp. If you want to skip to there, that's where spoils end. Yeah, they just get into a bunch of wackadoodles. Stuff happens, really kind of unimportant. Let's get into it. Let's dive into that juicy, sludgy spoils and bubbling and gray and why am I saying things? Alright, here's a spoil. How it ends is not good. I said it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If the movie How It Ends was a title screen that just said the end, I go to bed, I'm like, that was a weird movie. Why was it called How It Ends? Oh, it's because it ended. That would have been so much more better than this movie. So the shenanigans the son and dad go throughout the movie is ridiculous, outright buffoonery, because everything happens to them straight up in every apocalypse movie ever. So any apocalypse movie you can think of, it happened in this movie, except for like zombies. That's another spoiler, I guess. There's no zombies. I was like, everything has happened in this movie. There's gotta be zombies at some point. And it didn't happen. I would have liked it a little better if it did. It would have made it so much more ridiculous to watch. But yeah, on day 1 of the apocalypse, electricity goes out. Oh, dang it. Electricity's out. Planes can't fly for some reason. Everybody goes grocery shopping immediately. As you would if all the electricity went out. How they get into the store or check out or anything with the electricity being off? Who knows, dude? They go into the store, at least the dad does, and while the son's by the car, these people pull up, and this lady's like, You wanna have sex? Beat it, scamp! And then a gang pulls up, and they're like, Take his money, 'cause he didn't have sex with me in the apocalypse. This is day 1. This is day 1. Not even day 1. This is day 1/4. It's like gangs are already forming. Then the dad comes out. He's like, Hey, don't hurt him. I have money. Then he goes to the back of his car and says, It's in the back of the car. Let me get it. What do you think happens? What do you think happens? He has a gun. You don't just say, My wallet's in the back of my car. I'm up to no good, am I? He pulls out his gun. He's like, Yeah, you get out of here. Then they leave, and the son's like, I've never used a gun before. That's scary. And this plays a big part in the movie. He's never used a gun before. The son has never, ever used a gun before. And he also hates them. Remember that. That's a big point. So when the son and dad are about to leave, they are met with the military basically quarantining off the city for some reason. Why the military is quarantining a city for the electricity going out? And there were also a couple earthquakes. I forgot to mention there were earthquakes. This is no viral infection. This is no everybody's infected and we have to keep people in the city. Earthquakes. The military's like, Hey, you're staying here. We can't let the earthquakes spread. You're gonna spread the earthquakes! Anyways, when they pull up to the military, the dad gets out of the car and is like, I'm military. Let me through. And they're like, Yes, sir! This guy had no proof of military at all. He just gets out of his car, stands up to one of the soldiers and said, I did my time. You should let me through. And they were just like, Yes, sir! It was just so stupid. It was so stupid. I was like, anybody could be like, we're military, and they would let you through if you just said that you were. He didn't prove anything. He didn't have a card on him, or, you know, I don't know the terminology for like being like, I'm in the military, here's proof. Military card, this is proof. They're driving down the road, still day 1. The road is completely empty, just empty road and fields, and a cop pulls up behind them. Where did this guy come from? Probably from the same city, because it turns out the cop is not a real cop, and he tries to kill him. For why are you trying to kill him? 'Cause apocalypse. He was just like, Hey, I'm driving a cop car. Let me through. And they're like, Oh man! Let him through. Which, you know, I guess that makes more sense than just driving a regular car and just being like, I'm military. But still, come on. They have this really slow car chase scene with him. It goes on for like 5 minutes, and the cars, you can tell they didn't edit this well because the cars are driving at no joke like 10 miles an hour. It's so funny. It's funny. You know, I enjoy this movie a little bit because of how ridiculous it was. They lose track of the cops, or the cop, the one guy trying to kill them. They drive away from the cop, they crash into a ditch because the deer was in the road. You know, as you do. Swerve away into a ditch to avoid hitting the deer while you're driving 10 miles an hour. They get into this crash. Dad hurts one of his ribs, which is important. Remember that. Dad hurts his ribs, son's in the back. The cop pulls up, opens up the car in COD fashion, spits out the F slur, and then the dad just like bashes his head. So yeah, this is the end of day one. An earthquake happens, gangs form, people pretend to be cops that are racist and lewdy and homophobic, and city quarantines because of an earthquake. Man, apocalypse will do something to a guy, let me tell you. So after the nighttime, they drive the cop car and their busted up car. No, it's just the cop car? I think it might have been both cars. You know, looking back, how did they get the car out of the ditch? I'm just not remembering that. How did they get the car out of the ditch? Anyways, they go to a trailer park, and while they're there, there's a girl there that is seen being like pushed around by an older person. You're like, oh, she's gotta be important. Anyways, she turns out to be like a car specialist. So they, you know, ask her like, hey, come along with us. We'll pay you. Which doesn't give off kidnapper vibes at all. And they explain that really well in the movie by keep saying that they're not kidnappers. We are not kidnappers. We'll give you money. Believe us. They actually do that, but it's funny how they said it in the movie, because it was like the movie's trying to defend itself to being like, this isn't what kidnappers sound like, okay? $2,000 for free if you just get in the back of our car. Anyway, she tags along, and they all go on wacky adventures together, like a big happy family. But before they leave, the dad's like, I'm gonna tape up the back lights of the car so nobody can see us from behind. They can still see your headlights. You are driving with headlights on in the dark. Second thing, just take out the bulbs. Take out the bulbs in the car. You don't have to tape up the car. If anything, that's just gonna overheat the tape. It could, like, I don't know, something bad could happen. Could something bad happen? Let me look it up. Okay, after my like 2-second search, I didn't find anything about it like being harmful to the car. But come on, light is still gonna bleed through the tape. Just take out the bulbs. Another funny scene that happens right before they leave. It's like implied that birds are drones, because they look at like a flock of birds and they start making like buzzing sounds. This is like, oh, let me put that on the checklist of things that could happen in an apocalypse movie. Bird drones. While they're driving, a really random big car crash happens, seemingly out of nowhere, and a bunch of looters roll up too, out of nowhere. Looters are just paroling America. You know how they do. There's like, day 2 of the apocalypse. Y'all see anything to loot? Nah. Keep driving though. I wonder if any gas stations are gonna be open when we roll out of gas. They're like, that's the thing, we're looting gas. They're like, oh, word, yeah. But anyways, they're driving, big car crash happens. They all get out of the car, even though their whole thing before was like, we have to stay in secret. They get out of the car and they're like, what happened? Are you okay? To like dead people. Anyway, the looters, they do roll up and they get away. Nothing happens. After driving away from the looters, it starts raining like crazy, like stupid crazy out of nowhere, like flood weather out of nowhere. Again, another thing to add to the apocalypse checklist. On day 2, later they like pull up to a neighborhood where it's like, hey, I got friends here. The son says that. He's like, I got friends here. Let's go check it out. We'll get supplies. And they pull up there. And it's like already fenced off by like school buses. On day 3, people are already fencing out people. An earthquake happened and the electricity went out. And then when they do eventually escort them into the neighborhood to their friend's house, they have like a truck full of people like on the bed with guns, just being like, yeah, day 3 of the apocalypse. Goes crazy. This is day 3. This is not like 2 years into the apocalypse and people are already like going mad or like, you know, really terrified of like looters and stuff. If this did happen in the regular world, there'd be like half of the population would have had to have been looters for this to happen. How many people are actively like, man, when the apocalypse happens, I'm gonna be a looter? Like, this movie is basically your typical apocalypse TV show, but all 10 seasons crammed into a movie. And so after they get out of that neighborhood and get supplies from their friends and whatnot, they're driving And a plane gets shot out of the sky. Military plane. For no reasons. Maybe they'll explain it later. They drive up a mountain eventually. Again, this whole movie is driving, so I'm just kind of saying the events that happened. Because they're driving up a mountain and it's on fire. Let me just... Whoop. The whole mountain's on fire. They're driving. When they see the mountain, it's on fire. It's like, whoa, it's on fire. The mountain's on fire. And when they drive through it, you don't see any fire. It's just like VFX smoke and red light bulbs. So they like spent all their money on like animating the fire. Also at one point they step out of the car and they don't cough at all. None of the characters cough because they're anti-smoke. But anyways, there's a woman. She's like, help me, my husband, he's dying. And then it turns out it was a trap. Two people come out and are like, give us your gas! And they take one of their gas cans, because they had two of them. After those two people robbed him, the woman's like, why are we not civil around here? Why can't we be civil? My sister in Christ, you started this! They get back into their car, drive out to get him, and they're driving, and they're like, when they finally catch up to them in this fire, they give the girl that's with them a gun. They're like, hey, shoot him! Make him stop! Mind you, both of the people in the car driving that they're trying to catch up with both have shotguns. So this could not end well. I'm just kidding. They don't shoot back at all. And then the guys in the car, one of them is driving, so I guess he couldn't shoot a shotgun. But the other guy must have just been sitting in the car being like, oh man, they're catching up. They're catching up, man. Drive faster. I'm going as fast as I can. Can you help me out? How do you want me to help? You have a gun! Oh yeah! And then as soon as he got that realization, she popped one of their tires and the car like does a triple double flip. And then they both die. And then they go in the car and get the gas out before the car explodes. Nothing happened. They took your gas and you got it back within like 5 minutes. Moments later, they drive out of the fire and the girl's like, I can't do this. I can't believe I killed somebody. And the son gets out of the car and is like, you had to do it, bro. You had to kill them. Come on, you just had to kill them because they took our stuff. The girl's like, I can't. You don't know how much I've been through. The guy's like, yeah, you don't know how much I've been through either. And then it doesn't go into anything. The girl's like, I can't do this. And she leaves. We don't learn anything about her at all. She went through something. What did she go through? What kind of trauma did you go through that we saw a peek of at the beginning, but we never got explained? We don't know because she leaves. She leaves the movie, legitimately. She says, I think I'm gonna leave, and she does. They wake up the next day and they're like, oh, she's gone. Anyways, later the dad and son leave and sort of connect on the road. It's like mumbo jumbo emotional stuff that happens. That's like, you know what? You're not a bad kid. Thanks. I needed your approval. And, you know, it's just that little sprinkle of emotional stuff that happens in a movie so that, like, when this person's at a movie festival, they can be like, hey, what's in your movie? It's like, oh, you know, action, drama, emotion. Later on into the movie, there is a giant train wreck. It must have just slammed on the brakes too fast. Because it just wrecked. There's no like car there that caught on fire because it ran into it, or like a big crater explosion. The train's just boop. That's another thing to the list of just apocalypse things, but alright. They pull up there and the son's like, I found some gas! It's specifically for cars! Whoa. Cool. Just on the train. Awesome. And it's already in a little it's already in a little like red little thing too. Sounds like, I got the gas. And the dad is dying because at the beginning of the movie he bruised his rib. That was the important thing. He bruised his rib. He started bleeding into his rib, and the son's like, I got this needle, and then like lets all the air out. And they're like, I gotta get you to a hospital, Dad. I gotta get you to the hospital. They're driving around and they go to this town, and again it's blocked off by a huge truck. People on dirt bikes wearing all black, you know, and like a helmet, and a silhouette of a guy in front of the truck holding a gun like, who are you? They pull up and are like, hey, can we come inside? The guy, the silhouette's like, yeah. They're like, we can't trust him. And the dad's like, yeah, here's my gun. He has never used a gun before, and he's just like, I'm okay with this now. The son's like, we gotta get out of here. Hits on the reverse, stunt drives, does a complete like 180 turn and keeps driving. How? You never, what? You've never done anything like this before. You're like a freaking accountant, dude. And then when he has the gun, the two bikers are like riding beside him and he's like, pew boom, and shoots both of them. Never used a gun before, shoots both of them. It's so silly. The movie is so inconsistent. It just like makes no sense. It's like a failed attempt at trying to be really cool, but it never led to a scene being really cool. It's just like, oh yeah, now this accountant is a stunt driver and a marksman. That's pretty cool, actually. And the viewer's like, oh, really? You're lying. Anyways, they get away, and the dad dies, being like all emotional again, like, I love you! But as he's driving away by himself now, his car just, you know, shuts down, stops working. I think it runs out of gas or something. He like opens up the lid and he's like, it looks fine over here. How would he know? He's not a he's not a mechanic. The girl's gone. He's just like, maybe it says what I need to fix inside of the car. So, you know, as a normal person does, he uses the rest of the gas that he has and catches the car on fire and leaves. Because you can't just have a broken down car, you just have to catch it on fire to not attract attention. So fast forward a little bit, the guy starts hitchhiking. Somebody pulls up and he's like, we'll take you in, but I have to take your gun because I got my family in the car. And while they are driving, they start just doing small talk like, hey, how's the weather? Be like, you know, really bad. But the guy that picked him up is like, yeah, we're headed to Canada because the air is safe there. The air is causing looters to form. The air is causing bird drones. So the air is safe in Canada. That's a nice explanation. Hope we get some more explanation saying what happened. Nice explanation, but the fact is, that is the closest explanation we get in this movie. At all. That is it. Maybe the air is bad in America, and that's why all hell is breaking loose. We actually never know. It never gets an explanation. Anyways, fast forward a little bit more. The son takes the car that the people were initially hitchhiking with because they get to like their parents' house, or the son's parents' house, and the parents aren't there for some reason. And they leave him with food and whatnot. And takes their car, finally gets up to the city where his girlfriend is, and it's demolished. It's all gone. It's basically just a bunch of rubble. You're looking at like Last of Us vibes, or you know, The Walking Dead. Just like a city go burr. When I get to the apartment, there's a note scratched on the door that's like, here I am. And he's like, cool. He's not like ecstatic at all. He's not like emotional. He's just like, yes! Yeah, my girlfriend's okay. Yeah. So he gets to the house where his girlfriend is, and she's with like their neighbor or something. The neighbor, you soon find out, is like all jealous and stuff. After, you know, 4 days of being there, the neighbor's like, she's mine, man, and she loves me, not you. You're expired. And the son's like, nuh-uh, and then shoots the neighbor. It's kind of funny because when he shoots the neighbor doesn't like go out like, ah! The neighbor just gets shot, and then it cuts away for a second, and then it cuts back, and he's like... I think that's what's lacking in this movie, is any sort of sense of emotion. No emotion at all in this movie. Anything that should have emotion, it's not there. Except for the dad scene. Except for the dad and the son bonding scene. The little... you like that one though, did you? Anyways, we're coming up on the end of the movie. The son and the daughter are like, we should be safe here, right? And the daughter's like, I don't know. And then a volcano blows up below their house. Bruh. Yeah. A volcano just erupts under their house. So they get in their car and they're out running like volcano ash smoke. We'll be okay! We got this, babe! And then they like make out in the car. And then the movie ends. There's like no like resolution in this movie. Like, it should have ended with them being like, I'm back with my girlfriend. Then we're gonna face this together. They had to throw in one more apocalyptic trope before the movie ends. They're like, come on, think of something. We can't do zombies, that's too far-fetched. Volcano under the house! Oh man, okay. Did you watch the spoilers? Did you? Are you back now? Hey buddy, I grew older a little bit. So if you like pretty bad movies, then you might like this one. Just for like watching a stupid movie just because of how stupid it is, then you might like it. However, I thought this movie was just kind of bad. It wasn't ridiculous bad that made me think it was like good because of how stupid it was. It was just bad. I laughed so many times at how bad it was, and that probably made me like it a little bit just because I was laughing at something. Like, for instance, a bad movie that is good because it is intentionally stupid and it knows that it's stupid is a movie that I watched with one of my friends called Santa Jaws. And it's about like Santa Claus as a shark that's like taking over a city, but more like it's like a town, and the town is like in a lake. So a shark in a lake, and and Santa Claus Jaws, like, come on. It's funny, it's hilarious because of how stupid it is, and it knows that it's stupid. There were parts of this movie where the dialogue could just not be heard at all. There were moments in the movie where the lighting was just as bad, so I might as well have just been seeing like a silhouette of a person instead of like an actual person, because it was like they were shooting when the sun was behind somebody, but they didn't have any front light, so you just see like just a silhouette. Or like where the dialogue was so bad, not the dialogue, I guess that just the like microphones were so bad it just sounded like muffled almost. It was such a low budget film with no idea of how to sell this movie at all, except for getting some like big actors and people being like, "Ooh, I know this actor, I'm gonna watch this movie."
Worst mistake of my life.
The story was incoherent, and the characters were bland, and nothing really important happened. Or if something important really did happen, I didn't really care because all the characters were just 2D. It's like really just not interesting. If I could rate this movie, I'd give it a 3 out of 10 instead of a 2 out of 10, just because of how hard I laughed at some parts of the movie. Other than that, this movie was not enjoyable to watch. It'll make a very fun drinking game though. If you want a drinking game to this, have a drink every time some apocalypse thing happens. If something apocalyptic happens and you have a shot, you'll be wasted by the end of this movie. Or if you have a shot of water, you'll be really hydrated. Anyways, thanks for sticking around, watching this silly, goofy little movie video. If you stuck around and you like this movie, yeah, I'm a director now. If you stuck around and like this video, just leave a like. You know, helps me want to make more of these. Subscribe if you're not. Get other people to come around, subscribe. You don't have to, but you could. And turn on that notification bell, because I'll be probably not making these consistently. So, you know, when I do, well, keep that notification turned on. Also, I'm gonna try to make one of these videos at least once every like 2 weeks or something. I would try to make like easier content to record, but I'm not really sure what to make that could easily come out more other than like video game commentary. I'm recording on my laptop. You could probably tell by the quality of the video, recording on a headset. So this is already gamer. Anyways guys, thanks for sticking around. If you have any video ideas, just let me know. I watch them. And yeah, anyways guys, leave a comment of what your favorite apocalypse is. Mine is all of them in a span of 82 minutes. That's all for now. I'll see you later. Peace, baby.